it's Lisa. A couple of weeks ago I did a page and did the video of it where I challenged myself to use all neutrals. Well, it was very well received and I really loved the page. We're back to that again. This time it's not my idea to do the challenge. This is one of the Load Layout a Day challenges for February, is to do not just neutrals but black and white, and I'm assuming gray, for a page. The photos can be colorful. They don't have to be black and white. I'll tell you how I got to these in just a moment. But all the papers and embellishments should be neutral, and they should be in the black, white, and gray family. Well, that is really tough because my definition of neutrals is fairly broad. So I first went through all of my neutrals drawer paper, and I had more choices than I thought. And then I pulled out some photos and started laying them with the papers, and I very quickly figured out that I didn't have any photos that looked good with these full 12 by 12 sheets. I had one scrap that I kept coming back to that I really liked, and I liked it with these photos of the birds at the bird feeder in the wintertime. These were taken 2 different winters. This was very recently, just a few days ago, and this was a bird that we haven't had this year. It's called a towhee, and they're beautiful. They have rust colors on them. I'm hoping I have some photos somewhere that are a little bit better than that one. But I had this one in my photo drawer, and I decided to do both of these together with the title of My Precious Birds. That's what my husband calls them because I'm always giving them this nice, good bird seed. And I'm going to be working on this background paper from Michael's. It's a Recollections paper, and I want to take this sticker off and save it because this is my last sheet of this, and I don't know exactly what color this is. So I want to take that back to the store. Maybe the numbers on it will help me. I mean, I could see it in the store, but when you're in there with all those colors, it may be hard to pick this particular one out. But it's like a really pale gray color that's not white, but it's not real gray either, and I've used a few sheets of it and I really like it. It's a beautiful color. So I'm going to use that for the background, and I'm going to use this paper from Authentique that I just have a half sheet of that I think goes with the snow kind of theme and looks really pretty with the photos. I have this from, I think it was Fancy Pants. It was this collection called The Daily Grind. It's really old, 6x6 sheet. My intention is to handwrite my journaling in white with a white gel pen on this black paper. I thought that would be something kind of different. I really kind of wanted to use this paper along with the photos. And here's my sketch. So we're going to have journaling, the 2 photos, 2 4x6s, 1 portrait and 1 landscape, and this paper on the back. And what I found when I did the page before is that the neutrals page is that it needs some texture. It needs something more than just papers. So for some texture, I'm probably going to go back to stencils. I pulled out a couple that I thought went with the snowflake theme. This one is from Christy Tomlinson, and it's very, very delicate. And then I have these little tiny things. They're called pointed stars. This is Jenny Boland. I don't even think I've used this stencil at all yet. But I thought about adding those to the background, but they look so much like this other paper when I got the stencil over here that I'm probably going to use this one and tuck it behind and maybe just use some gesso over it. That's kind of what I'm thinking of, white on white. Nothing really bold there for the stencil. Now for my embellishments, as we're going through my embellishments, I thought, boy, this is going to be even harder. And then I remembered that I had these snowflakes. I got these as a part of blog candy that I won somewhere along the way, and I've had them in a drawer forever because I don't see snowflakes being black. That's just not that. I was just surprised that they made them in that color, and I couldn't quite figure out what to do with them. I wasn't crazy about the plasticky sort of look, but on this layout, I think they're going to work. I think they look really good. Now, some of this black paper will get cut off, but I think they look really good with the bird and stuff. And how I narrowed it down to these particular photos is I just laid out a bunch. I didn't have very many photos that I thought looked good with a black and white background, because for me, picking the colors of a page is about advancing the story. So I had these photos where we went to see this magician, and everything, and he was dressed in black and white, and so that would have worked with the color scheme, but it would have been a page that had without that color in there, it doesn't tell about how happy his performance was about connecting with the audience, and everybody laughed so much. And to me, a black and white page, it just wouldn't have been the right, communicated the right mood. In this case, it's going to give me serenity, and so using a lot of grays and especially a lot of the white. So that's what I'm going for with the watching the birds and the feeders, a very serene, content kind of feeling. So that's what I'm going for here, and I'm going to do my background first.
Starting with just some plain white gesso, I'm spreading this on kind of thickly. The upper right corner, I've got a large part of the stencil showing because we'll see more of that background. Down here in the lower left corner, I'm going to have just a little bit of it showing, just kind of from the middle out, so about a quarter of the stencil, because you won't end up seeing very much of that. And I end up getting a little bit more around the edges there than I had wanted, but most of that's going to get covered with the paper anyway, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. And it took I left this to dry about 3 hours because I had other things to do, so that was okay. If I'd used a thinner layer or used a heat gun, I could have gotten it drier a little bit sooner. Now I'm just marking where I'm going to do my writing with my white gel pen. And I did a little test on the very bottom of the paper to make sure that the pen came out good on this paper. And I have it handwritten on another sheet, so I kind of know how much room that I'm going to need. I very seldom handwrite journaling. I don't really like my handwriting, and I can type faster and get more in. But I think in this case it'll be kind of a nice change, and it looks good there with the white print on the black paper. Now I'm going to get this glued down. I'm just trying to get it good and straight. I've cut the I will call it the snowflake paper, the white paper there, off a little bit on the left side so you could see more of the gessoed stencil part. So rather than taking it all the way to the edge, I cut it down a little bit. It's kind of laying my snowflakes out to see which ones I like. And I've got to remodel my letters here because I didn't have an S and I didn't have an R. So I'm taking an H and turning it into an R, and taking, I think that was a P, and turning it into an S. The S is a little funny looking, but we're going to go with it. I had 2 packs of these letters and I didn't have an S left in either one of them. So those are about ready to go on, but I'm going to have to put the snowflakes on first. Kind of looking at possible papers to go with that. But I can also use washi tape and trim is something I think may work really well here because it gives me some texture. I'm looking at maybe putting some of this trim across the middle of the page. On the stencil I have it at the bottom, and I toyed with putting it there on the middle for a while, and eventually I decided to go ahead and put it on the bottom. In the meantime, I'm looking at these snowflakes, and one of the things I found in going through my embellishments was these rhinestones, the circle design. I have had this since 2006 because I remember I bought it and used some of these for my stepdaughter's wedding, one of my stepdaughters' weddings pages. So I've had that a long time, and I think it'll be pretty with the snowflake. I thought it might be a little too dressy. I'm using a pearl brad. But again, they're called precious birds, and diamonds are precious, so we're going to go with this. Now here's where I make a mistake, though. I pulled the whole thing off of there, and then I had no idea how big it was and how to get it into a circle. And say, it's been since 2006 that I've had these, so I don't remember how I got them on there back then and got them in nice round circles. Maybe I just used half circles or something. I don't know. But I had a lot of trouble with this, and what I finally decided to do was to cut myself a template. So I didn't have the right size in my Creative Memories cutters, and finally I went to the Cricut and I cut out a 3.5-inch circle, and I put it on the page. I used the brad to hold it down right where it needed to go, and then I just fit the rhinestones right around it, and then it went on just as easy as it could be. So once I had something to guide it, it was just the right thing there. And there may be some better way of doing it, but that's what I ended up doing. It's the last one of these I had, so it's done at this point. I'm going to put another brad in the snowflake on the left and put a little bit of that rhinestone. I have a little small circle of the rhinestone, and I'm just going to peel it off and put it on there. And I've got some washi tape for the bottom and also some of that trim that I can put on. And I have another little piece of rhinestone there that has a chevron design to it. I was kind of staying away from chevrons, but I like having a little bit more rhinestone down there in the lower right hand corner to sort of balance the two larger embellishments. So just putting that on with Tombow adhesive, and it works, but it sort of comes through that sheer a little bit. I ended up with quite a bit of it on my fingers. Now, the word birds is not showing up on that white paper. I was afraid of that. So I go through my a neutrals paper pad that I had. I like that black and gray stripe. And there was also a wood grain there, and that would be really appropriate for the birds. It's a slightly taupish color, but we're going to go with it as black and white or gray. I end up using it and putting a little gray ink on the edging. And I think I need one more brad, just deciding where it needs to go on the bottom of the page, and that should wrap up the page. So we'll come back with the final here in just a second. So here's our sketch with our two large elements, and we added a little bit more to the lower right hand corner, as well as having some areas in the background that were stenciled. So let's take a look at the page a little more close up. Can see the stenciled areas, the rhinestone, and those snowflakes I think came out really good. Even though they're black snowflakes, it's kind of different. A little bit of washi tape to balance what's in the lower right hand corner. Trimmed off the paper there so I could see the area in the background just a little bit more. Another brad to balance things. So be sure and check out my blog. You'll find the sketch for this page as well as the sketch PDF from 2013 that has lots of sketches. And this page has black, white, and gray, so it meets the challenge. Thanks for watching.